Hello everyone. So in the previous lecture we have discussed about function overloading. Okay, what is polymorphism and like polymorphism is what? One name and many forms. Okay, we are creating many forms. So there are two different types of polymorphism basically, static and dynamic. Static is also called as compile time polymorphism and dynamic is called as runtime polymorphism. So, in compile time polymorphism, again, two types are there, function overloading and operator overloading. So, in the previous lecture, we have discussed about function overloading, just the introduction part. We'll see a few more examples and important points related to this in today's lecture. So we discussed this example wherein we need to calculate gross pay for three different types of employees: regular, daily wages, and consolidated employees. So for all three employees, for calculation of gross pay, the name of the function would remain same, whereas inputs would be different and the implementation or the calculation part would be different. Okay. So So these also we have discussed last time, right? So static polymorphism, dynamic polymorphism. Okay, and static, these two first two type belongs to static or compile time polymorphism, and the last one is runtime polymorphism. Okay. So all these points we have discussed, like C or C++ compiler, implicitly inbuilt also that overloading concept is used. Like we have seen that this operator, subtraction operator, is used as a unary as well as binary operator. Okay, or this star is used for multiplication as well as for pointers also. So there is only one single operator, but we are giving multiple meanings to it, or multiple semantics are attached to it. Okay. Likewise, this insertion and extraction operator, which we use as with CNC out as well as left shift and right shift operator. Okay. Then about function overloading, we have seen that function overloading is allowed in if the signature of that function is different. What is signature? What constitutes a signature of the function? The function name, okay, along with its types of input parameter. Okay, this just make one point very clear, that return type does not contribute in the function signature. मतलब यहाँ पे integer है, यहाँ पे double है, so based on that it won't differentiate I mean it doesn't constitute in the function signature. What is function signature? The name and its input parameters types. Okay. So based on that, the function signature is defined. So here, though we are using the same name here, square, and here also we are calculating the square. But here the input parameter is integer x, and here the input parameter is double x. So the compiler will be able to differentiate between these two functions based on the input parameter, though the name of the function is same. Okay. So the rule with the function is that either the name of the function should be different, or the input parameter should be different, or both. Okay. So now in this case, function name is same. Okay, but input parameters are different. So compiler will be able to differentiate between this function call and this function call. Okay. So from main, when I'm calling this square function, if I pass any integer input parameter, so in that case, which function will get called? The first one, wherein input parameter is integer. So it will calculate the square of 7, okay, here, and return this value back, and it will be displayed on the screen. Okay. So similarly here in this case, we are passing a double or float value. So in that case, which function will be called? This second function will be called, though the name is same but input parameter is different. So now it will call this second function. It will calculate this square and return this square back, and it will be displayed on the screen. Okay. So this is called as function overloading, wherein name of the function is same, but whereas with input, the type of input parameter is different. Here the input parameter is of type integer, here it is of type double. Okay. So this is called as function overloading, wherein we are giving multiple meanings, different meanings to Same function name remains same, but we are giving multiple meanings to that. Okay, one is for calculation of integer value, square of integer value, another is for calculation of square calculation of a double value. Okay, now already we have discussed on this point that signature of a function is very important in function overloading. So what constitutes a signature? Function name and input parameter, types of input parameter. So now tell me, can we call these two as two different function? Here, see, name of the function is same, input parameter, the types are same, integer combination. If you observe, first one is integer, next is float. Here also first one is integer, next one is float. So the types are same, only name of the variable is different. Here I am calling it as ab, here I am calling it as x and y. So can we differentiate, can a compiler differentiate between these two function? So answer is no. Okay, so name of the parameter doesn't contribute in the signature. What contributes in the signature of the function is function name and the types of the input parameter. मतलब यहाँ पे function name is same, input parameters are also same. So in this case again there is an ambiguous situation. So this kind of function overloading is not allowed, wherein just you change the name of the variable. मतलब यहाँ पे ए बी यूज किया, यहाँ पे एक्स वाई यूज किया, सो दिस इज नॉट अलाउड. You need to have some change in the types of the input parameter. मतलब यहाँ पे integer float है, यहाँ पे float and float combination is there. So that way the compiler will be able to differentiate, not on the basis of the name of the variables. Okay, मतलब यहाँ पे so in this case you will get error. Okay, this is again because creating ambiguous situation. Now, are all these forms of functions are allowed? Yes, this kind of function overloading is allowed. In first one, see, if you observe, return type is same, function name is same. Only where is the difference? Input parameter. So first one is first function is when we are passing integer input parameter. Second one is for a character, then float and double. Okay. So how to implement all these function, how to write a code for this? So see, this first one is to print square of an integer number. Okay, print square, this function is print square. So input we are passing as integer value. Okay, so we are displaying that integer I we are displaying. See, this type of combination you can use with cout. Okay, this is what in double quotes you can mention the string that you want to display. So as it is integer, string will be displayed. Then again this I is what? A variable. So whatever value we are passing, if we pass 5, then here it will display 5. Okay, so integer 5. So again we want to display some message. So in double quotes again some messages display that square is, and then again we want to display some value. So again we are putting this operator and then I into I, so that square will be calculated, it will be displayed. And then again this operator, because in double quotes we have to put this slash n, or either you can use end l also. Okay, but this operator has to be used to differentiate between a variable name and the string that you want to print. So everywhere you should have this operator. Like this is the string that you want to display, this is variable, again string, again this variable value I into I, and again string. So everywhere this operator has to be added. So first function is to display the square of the integer, another is for character. So for a character we don't declare, we don't calculate square, so simply I can display this message, no square for character. Okay, so if user passes any character value, we'll display this message on the screen. Then next one is print square of a float value. So again here we are calculating that value and we are displaying it here itself. We are not returning any value from this function, so return type is void. For all the function, return type is void because we are calculating and displaying it in the function itself. Okay. So next one is to calculate square of the double value. So same code, just what is the difference here? Input parameters are of different types. Okay, So we need to write separate function for all the data types differently. So now I've written four different functions to print to calculate square of four different data types. Okay, these four are the basic inbuilt data types which are available, and void is also one of the inbuilt data type. Okay, so for basic four types, I have written this function separately. Okay. So one more important point, I already have explained this point to you. Is this type of function is accepted for function overloading? See, the name of the function is same. Input parameters are also same. Only what is the difference? Return type is difference. Okay, different. So you must be having this doubt in your mind that whether this type of function overloading is accepted. So answer is no. No, here you will get error, because as I told you, what is the signature of the function? Function name and its types of the input parameter. Okay, data type of the input parameter. So this won't, the return type doesn't contribute in the function signature. Signature मतलब क्या है कि function की unique identity. ओके, तो फंक्शन की यूनिक आइडेंटिटी में रिटर्न टाइप नहीं कंट्रीब्यूट करता है. सो दैट इज द रीजन दिस हियर यू विल गेट एरर. Okay, based on the return type you cannot say that these two functions are different. Okay, the compiler will not be able to identify these two functions uniquely only on the basis of return type. So here you will get again error. This is ambiguous situation again for a compiler. Okay, now how to call these function which I have declared in this manner, defined in this manner. So for calling this function, when I'm calling with integer value, it will call which function? The first one. Okay, and it will calculate the square of the integer and it will be displayed. Second, again for this value, it will call double. Okay, so we, because we are having two different again function for double and float, so it will call this, and then for finally for this one it will call float. Okay, I hope you understand the difference between double and float. Float again, size restriction is there for float. It is like small range is there for float, and for double bigger range of decimal values is there. Okay, so for this it will call the double calculation, double function with a double input parameter, and for this it will call float. Now, in this situation, how many functions I have written in this particular example? Two functions I have written. One is with integer input parameter, another one is with double input parameter. Okay, so in this situation, from main, already we have discussed this part. Only I want to discuss this part, function calling part, which I have written in main. So here I am calling this function three times. First with integer value, so it will call the first one, first function. Another one with this decimal value, so it will call this function. Okay, so automatically see here for 7.5 it will call undoubtedly double, because float and double two different functions are not there. So automatically for 7.5 it will call double. Okay, function with a double input parameter. And now what about this last function call, wherein input parameter is character? Okay, now do we have any function with a input parameter character? No, we don't have. So will compiler give error in this situation? No, answer is no. The reason is that I hope you know about the ASCII values for character. Okay, each character is represented with one ASCII value before it gets stored in the memory. Okay, so this standard form of representation of character is used, which is called as ASCII. So for capital A, it starts with 65. So small a, it starts with 97. Okay, small b 98, and likewise. Okay, so small a it starts with 97. So internally this character a is represented as 97. So in case if you don't have a specific function for character, यहाँ पे हमने कैरेक्टर के लिए अलग से फंक्शन नहीं लिखा है. सो इन दिस सिचुएशन what compiler does, automatically that compiler will resolve this. Okay, it won't show you an error, but compiler will resolve this situation. How it resolves? This a is internally converted into ASCII. Okay, so 97 is the ASCII for this, and this value will be passed to this first function, because first function is for integer values. Input parameter is integer. So for 97, it will call this function, and this result will be returned back here, and it will get displayed on the screen. Okay, so if you don't have, see in the previous situation, if you observe, I'm having separate function for character. So if this situation is there, then compiler has a clear picture, clarity is there, that whenever there is a call for character value, it will call this function only. Okay, it won't, in that situation it won't call this integer wala function. Okay, it will call this function only, because clearly we have separate function for all these four: integer, character, float, and double. So in this situation, it will call the specific function. Okay, character hai to character ko hi call karega, integer hai to integer ko hi. Okay, but suppose in my program I'm having, instead of four, if I'm having only these two function, then compiler will help you out to resolve this situation, क्योंकि internal typecasting is also available. Internal typecasting कौन से यहाँ किस में होगा, like character to integer it is possible implicitly, because by default character is represented with ASCII. So inbuilt that support will be given by the compiler. Okay, for character to integer, that inbuilt support is there. Then float and double also, that internal typecasting is possible. Okay, like in integer to double and all those things you will get error, but implicit support will be there for which values, character to integer it is possible, and float double, that internal typecasting is possible. Okay, तो implicitly कुछ type के लिए that casting is possible. Okay, so here you need to understand that for some of the data types that implicit typecasting is available. So in this situation, though I haven't written a separate function for character type of input, it the compiler won't throw any error. Reason is that it will internally typecast this character to integer value. Okay, because of ASCII conversion. Okay, so which function will get called for this last function call? This one with integer input parameter, and the function will display the square of 97 in this case. Okay, because ASCII value of this will be passed here. Okay, and that will be displayed on the screen. Clear? Now in this situation, like what changes are there? So same code is there, but I'm having specific function to a character. So in this case, compiler resolves square a to square character. So in this situation, sorry, this return zero, return zero, because no square is calculated here. So here what value you'll get on the screen. For the first one, it will call the integer, this first function with integer input parameter. Second one, it will call this one. And what about third? Now I'm having a specific function for character. Now no internal typecasting, because explicitly as a programmer I have written separate function for character. तो compiler को कुछ implicit conversion करने की जरूरत नहीं है in this situation, because I'm having separate function for character. So now the control is transferred here. I'll display this message ki no square calculation for character, and return which value? Back integer. So return type is integer for this. Okay, so it is returning 0. So here what will be displayed on the screen? It will display 0 on the screen. First this message will be displayed, no square for character, and then this return value 0 will be displayed on the screen. Is it clear? So if I'm having a separate function for that character value, then it will execute it. If I'm not having that separate function, then in that case also you won't get any error for this, because implicit type conversion is there from character to integer. So in this situation, it will call the first function, right? Then in this case, what we are doing, again, another example here, exactly opposite example. I'm calling this function. This function is not returning any value because return type is void. Okay. So I'm calling this function with which input parameter? Integer type of input parameter. एक directly value मैंने pass किया यहाँ पे, which is an integer value. Okay, so here whenever I am passing this integer value, it will be, now I am catching that value as character. So again, integer to character, it allows कैरेक्टर टू इंटीजर एज वेल एज इंटीजर टू कैरेक्टर इम्प्लिसिट कास्टिंग, ठीक है ना। तो 471 का जो भी दिस विल बी ट्रीटेड एज आस्की वैल्यू, तो उसका जो भी इक्विवेलेंट कैरेक्टर होगा दैट वैल्यू विल बी कंसिडर्ड हियर एज इनपुट पैरामीटर and that value will be displayed on the screen. So see, generally for this function the value should range between 0 to 255 actually, okay, ASCII value, so that you will get some relevant number on the screen, and a number sorry, character on the screen. So whichever input integer value you are passing, its equivalent character will be displayed on the screen. So this for this type of function also you won't get any error. तो ये भी एक implicit conversion का example है, okay. So this integer will be treated will be converted into equivalent character value, okay. Now with this discussion, like different types of function overloading, so what we have learned in function overloading, that one function name can take multiple forms, okay. function का नाम वही होगा but उसके different it can take different forms, like here square, square and square, everywhere function name is same, but it can take different forms based on the input parameter types that we are passing here, okay. So based on the input parameter types, data types, it can take different forms, okay. So this is called as polymorphism or function overloading. Which type of polymorphism is this? Function overloading. एक ही function के multiple forms आपने बना दिए for different data types, okay. So now, based on this discussion, again coming back to the first case study that we have started with, calculating the gross pay, okay. So for the first type of employee, which is a regular employee, we are having which function? Calculate gross pay. Function name is calculate gross pay, but here we need 3 input parameter, each of type float. Then again, another type is daily wages employee. So here we need 2 input parameter for the calculation. Function name would remain same, that is calculate gross pay, because we are calculating everywhere, we are calculating gross pay only. So function name would remain same, input parameter is different. Here it is for the consolidated employee, wherein input parameter is what? Only one input parameter is of type float. Okay, you can have a default value also. मतलब जो आपका default value input parameter का concept है, so that also you can apply in the function overloading. So that's the reason purposely this example is discussed. कि you can merge these two concepts. कि this is default value, right? So I can have a default value also, और I may pass another value also. मतलब यहाँ पे भी सिर्फ float and semicolon possible है, or you can have some default values also. So this is what function declaration or prototypes. Yes, with this we have already discussed ki function declaration या prototype, what is that? Okay, so here we are just declaring the function. I haven't taken here any class or object concept, simple plain program I am discussing without any class or object, function overloading, how to implement. So these are 3 different types of function I'm using. So this is the function declaration or function prototype. Now in main, I'm taking choice from the user. Okay, 3 different choices we are giving, whether it is regular employee, daily wages employee, or consolidated. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So if choice is 1, in that case, I call this calculate gross pay. Sorry, this part is cut. ये underscore है यहाँ पे. Like this function name is like this: calculate underscore gross pay underscore pay. Okay, so like that. ये space नहीं है. Otherwise, this type of function is not allowed. Yes, function name में gap ऐसे space नहीं हो सकता है. That वो cut हो गया शायद ये part. तो underscore is there. And then I am passing 3 input parameters here, है ना, for regular employee. Basic, DA and HRA. 3 input parameters are passed here as input parameter. Okay. If choice is 2, then I am calling calculate gross pay with 2 input parameter. Ki how many hours that worker has worked for and the rate for calculation. Okay, 2 input parameters I'm passing here, and whatever is the return value, that gross pay I'm displaying on the screen. So similarly here for choice 3, I'm displaying again calculate gross pay. Here I'm not passing any input parameter because the reason is that I have passed the डिफॉल्ट वैल्यू हियर, है ना, यहाँ पे डिफॉल्ट वैल्यू है तो इसलिए मैंने यहाँ पे कुछ भी पास नहीं किया. इन केस इफ दिस डिफॉल्ट वैल्यू इज नॉट देयर, देन फ्रॉम यूजर यू नीड टू टेक द वैल्यू एंड यू नीड टू पास दैट वैल्यू. ओके, सो आइदर वे विच एवर यू लाइक. एक तो डिफॉल्ट वैल्यू हो सकता है, डिफॉल्ट वैल्यू होने के बाद भी इफ यू यूजर वांट टू चेंज एनी वैल्यू, तो you can take that value and you can pass it as input parameter, so that is also absolutely okay. Okay, तो यहाँ पे ही मैंने दो अलग टाइप्स कर दिए हैं. लाइक अगर कंसोलिडेटेड फिक्स वैल्यू है, मतलब लाइक फॉर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नो सम रूल इज देयर कि कंसोलिडेटेड है तो 5000 पे ही ज्वाइन होगा. तो इन दैट केस यू विल कॉल दिस, यू विल गिव दिस चॉइस 3. एंड अगर कंसोलिडेटेड बाय ज्वाइनिंग, इफ दैट suppose that employee is not ready to join on 5000, so maybe that committee has taken decision to join this consolidated employee on 6000 salary. So in that case I'll call 4. Okay, I'll give choice as 4. Okay, so in this when choice is 3, matlab that employees agreed on 5000, so we'll call this function with just default value. Okay, and if choice is 4, that is he is demanding something else, so we'll take that demand as input and we are calling the same function. कौन सा function यहाँ पे call होगा? With one input parameter. मतलब one input parameter वाला कौन सा function है हमारा? End वाला, ये last वाला ही function है. Okay, but only the thing is that I'm taking the input from user and I'm giving this input parameter, है ना. तो कौन सा फंक्शन कॉल होगा इन बोथ ऑफ दीज सिचुएशन, ये है या ये है, सेम फंक्शन विल बी कॉल्ड. विच वन? द लास्ट वन. Okay, and for the first one it will call it with default value, and here it will give some explicit value. Okay, so now this is about function declaration. This is about function calling. Where is function definition? You need to define the function. So this is about function definition. तो ये definition हो गया first function का, wherein that already in case study I've given you this formula. Okay, so basic plus DA by 100 into basic. So that calculation, whatever calculation is there, so you implement it and return this value. Similarly, daily wages, you just calculate the number of hours into that rate for wages. Okay, and return it back. And for consolidated, whatever input you are getting, you just have to return it back. अगर आपको input मिला है तो you will return back that input. अगर नहीं मिला है तो by default 5000 will be returned. Default value will be returned. Okay, for the last one. Okay, so this is about the execution. So this is like with first case study that we have started. So I'm closing this discussion with that same implementation of the same case study, wherein we are having 3 different forms of the same function, that is calculating gross pay. Based on the input parameter, that differentiation is done. So like this, from user you have to take choices and accordingly you need to call the respective functions, and this is the way you can implement the function. This is the example, complete example with a case study of function overloading. Now you can try this also. This is for your practice. So to calculate area of a circle, rectangle and triangle using function overloading. तो यहाँ पे function का नाम क्या होगा? Function name is area calculation or simply area. Okay, so function name is what? This area. Okay, so everywhere it is area only. For all these 3 different types of shape, you will use the same name, that is area. Okay, function name is area, because for every shape we are calculating area only, but the calculation formula and the input would be different, है ना. Calculation formula for circle is based on the radius. Okay, so pi r square will be the calculation. So pi is you can declare constant also here. Okay, and you can pass radius as the input parameter, and the calculation will be pi r square. Okay, the formula will be different. So like that, rectangle and triangle also area calculation is different, input parameter will also be different. So this is also one more example of function overloading. This is for your practice. Okay, so you can write this code for your practice. Okay, so this is all about the function overloading. Okay, we'll take few more example in the lab session also on function overloading. So thank you very much everyone for attending this.